Hello and welcome to the Selah podcast. My name's Jacob and I am joined with Giann. We've been talking a lot over these last few episodes about the idea of dreams and how the Lord really puts dreams and desires in our heart, and it's kind of up to us to figure out what our next steps are going to be to see that through. And so first, before we get into your specific dream, tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, how you ended up at the Refuge.
What's up, guys? Okay, so Giann Quijano. I always have to go through my spiel. Giann Quijano. I'm a husband first. I'm a dad second. I love Jesus. My family loves God. We've been going to Refuge now, I'd say 14 months. We relocated here from Los Angeles. Our story is kind of crazy. If you get the chance to chat with us, more than happy to fill you in on the details. But the high level of it was we might as well have picked a place on a map and just went for it. And we felt God leading us here for sure. And so we took action and kind of jumped towards it. And honestly, it's the best thing we've ever done. For our family, I think for, even not just being here and relocating geographically, but also showing our kids what it looks like to hear from God and then do something about it. So yeah. That's why we're here. Yeah,
so Giann and I met because I'm in the creative world, and one of my friends was like, hey, this guy Giann does stuff in the creative world. You should talk. So
nice,
we had a nice blind coffee date about creative things.
It was great. We were both sitting in the cafe, and we didn't know who was who. I was like, are you the guy? And I was like, you look like the person.
So tell our listeners a little bit about what it is you do now, and then we'll kind of backtrack.
Absolutely. Okay, so my wife's going to kill me, but as you could tell, I'm a male model.
Yes.
Just built for it. No, we do creative marketing and advertising. And so, we do a lot of advertising for brands that are selling things online.
Yeah.
And so, specifically it's called e-commerce. And so people that are selling, whether it's a digital product or physical product, our team and our business goes in and helps scale their accounts so they can, hit their numbers, but also we're using all the platforms, the social platforms to kind of spread awareness and things like that.
So what we want to get into today is we talked a little bit about art and that being a similar part of both of our stories.
Yes.
I didn't really get to stumble into the art world being part of my profession till a little later, but it was always on my mind.
Yeah.
And I know from experience that once you're little and you're like, art's cool, it just kind of lingers there.
Totally.
I want to do something with that. So tell us a little bit about what'd you first dabble in art-wise?
Dude, okay, yeah, let's... Okay, I always kind of knew I was creative. I come from a creative family to a degree, but really what I knew that something I wanted to do was I had to be around 10, 11, and there was a lot of really cool art installations at some of the local museums, and we would go there with our school as a field trip, and I kind of just got exposed to it, and I was blown away at wow, one, how do they do this, and two, can I do that for work? It was is that a quote unquote career? Do people get paid for this stuff?
Right.
And then some of it was I was looking at abstract art and being there's no way someone's paying for this. It's just a square, or just a circle. And so I was just kind of getting exposed to that at a young age, and then it always piqued my interest. And then as I started getting older, started to experiment with different kinds. And started getting into, more of the street art and blending the two of how do you go from painting, whether it was on a wall or painting in your canvas, and how do you put that into clothing? And I saw this mix of things happening, and it was kind of a peak moment where streetwear was really big. And what I saw was people that were taking these crazy designs and they were putting them onto these shirts and selling them.
Yeah.
And that was almost an aha moment where I was no way, this is how they do a business out of it. This is how they're paying rent, at their place. And so I just knew right away that I was okay, I got to get into that. I got to learn how to do it. And so right before high school graduation, I had little summer jobs, trying to make money as much as possible. I saved up and I bought a MacBook Pro. And I went and pirated all the programs. I definitely didn't pay for them. I was just trying to get it done, And I sat at a coffee shop in Cerritos, and it was it was one of those moments where it was I look back at it now, I was man, I'm so glad I did that. But I would go there right when it opened, and then I was the first person there and the last one to leave. And it was just learning, and I was kind of self-taught.
Yeah.
And I just dove straight into it and started learning how to do it. And it ended up this graphic design. I was learning how to be, again, taking like artwork in places that probably shouldn't have been into actually putting it online, and then like having a story behind it, and started doing that for a long time.
Do you, in this stage of life, get the feedback sometimes of like, well, you just have that natural, like God just gave you that talent, but like you just described it as like you sat there all day.
Oh yeah,
and learned it.
And it's like we talked about like right before we started recording, but it was like God can't steer a parked car. Like you have to like start moving towards it, and like things will happen. And it's like the step of faith, or the hey, you know what? I'm going to at least try it. Like at the end of the day, it's like I had time and I had creativity, and I had like a dream, or I had a vision of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was like I had to just kind of step up and do something.
Yeah. So from early on, it was definitely an interest, and then it became like, oh, that could be a profession. Like, how early did you connect those thoughts to like, oh, actually the Lord might be leading me this, versus just, I just chose this because I'm Giann and I like it.
Yeah. And so I had like, I think everybody has like there's an aha moment and like the testimony to tell, right? Like regardless of your story. I think mine's for sure, like, I would say dramatic to a degree, but also, I look back at it now, it's like it really couldn't have been any other way. And so I started learning how to do all that at a really young age. I got introduced to like people locally where we're from in LA, and I got exposed to like, quote unquote, like the industry really young. Like I was like 19 years old, and we were going to like these insane photo shoots and video shoots and getting introduced to everybody you could imagine. And I remember just sitting there, and I grew up knowing about God, and I knew right from wrong for sure. I came from a good family, but I also chose to kind of make my own decisions at that point. And I was exposed to it. We were in the industry. We're making money. We're making really cool creative products and selling that. It was just like this like really cool, unique time at a young age. And what ended up happening was I ended up becoming a single dad at 20 years old. And so my whole world changed overnight. I went from, I could barely take care of myself, let alone I'm going to become a dad, and I got to figure this whole thing out. And now I really have to know, like, can this creative dream that I have even be a possibility? Yeah. Like it almost felt like you lost it, bro. Like you got to you just go do what you got to do to make it work. And it changed my life for sure, like overnight. And, my son was born, and it like it changed my world for the better. But in the moment, it was like, it almost felt like not like a rock bottom moment, but like a dude, like, how did you end up here? How did you allow yourself to get this way? And, God brought people into my life that were looking out for me to a degree, when they kind of asked me the same thing, like, bro, what happened? like you were like on this like really cool trajectory, and like, we don't see you anymore. You don't go to places, and like your artwork's like struggling, your product's not selling. Like there's like all these things that started happening, and I was like, whoa, like I thought I had this like vision for what my life was going to be. And then it kind of shifted again, like overnight. And it's, it was my choice, my decisions. And I had to like step up to the plate and do what I knew I had to do. And I felt like the art dream was going to like be forever gone. Yeah. And it made me struggle, because I was like, dang, like, I guess I'm just going to get a job, got to do what I got to do. And what ended up happening was a friend of mine, and he actually lives here in North Carolina. He's in Midland, but he was like a childhood friend of mine, and he had a son at like 17, 18 years old. Mm-hmm. But this was like when Instagram just like started to become like really cool. And people were like, he was posting images of him, his wife, and his son, and his day job was doing art. And I was like, there's no way. Like, how do you do this? Yeah. So I like...
Which, even to give context, like what year was this?
This like 2008, 2009.
Yeah, so even... That's not that long ago, but long enough to where like we're not all romanticizing being a creator. As
yeah,
you survey like people now, and like every 10-year-old wants to be a YouTube creator.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, this is like
then it was like, I remember my neighbor's dad did graphic design, and I just assumed like, oh, he makes comics.
Yeah. He draws all day.
Probably the furthest thing from the truth. But I don't think there was as much awareness of like the design world being a legitimate profession, opportunity. Yep. So. Yeah,
and like even then it was like, okay, like how do people do this? So I reached out, I sent him a DM, and he was like, hey, like if you're serious about it and you want to like actually learn, like you'll meet me and, you know, you put in the work. And I remember just being like, that's kind of cryptic. I don't really know what that means. Like, what on earth? Like, is like, what does this guy do? Yeah. And so I was like, okay, like I'm game. Like, it was almost like I'm up for the challenge. Like I knew that I had to like do something. Yeah. And I really like, not that I didn't have anything else going, but they were all going to be like dead end leads. And it wasn't what exactly I felt called to do. Yeah. And so I ended up meeting up with him, and he took me to where he was working, and he ended up working at a church. And I remember like, you know, I grew up going to a small, like super small church. Yeah. And he took me to this, like, it was pretty like big size church, and it was like a building. And I thought like, is this a college? Is this like a mall? Like, where are we? I have no idea what we're doing here, bro. And he brought me in, and I met the like art director at the church, and he actually ended up like mentoring me for like 5 years. Yeah. And it was cool because he showed me how to turn like the gifting that God was already creative, but he taught me how to turn it into like a career, and to like, they challenged me a lot. And it's really, I think the best place to be a creative is in the church, because you have to wear every hat. Yeah. And so like I learned graphic design, I learned how to video edit.
Sometimes you podcast host.
I get to be a podcast host. And then I got to like learn like, oh cool, I got to learn to make an app now. I got to learn how to do like coding. I got to learn all these things. And I did that. I was on staff at a church for 6 years. And then I took a break from using my like giftings for the church, and then I started my own business. Yeah. And that's like what we're doing now. But it was like this journey of like, it wasn't because I'm great and just showed up. It was because I was like down to put in the work, and also because I surrounded myself with people that were like believers that had the best intention for me.
Yeah. So as you were in that season of now applying your talents to like kingdom work, so to speak. Yeah. Like how are you kind of like, what was your thought process towards it? Like, were you immediately receptive? Were you wrestling with like, what, this wasn't part of my plan? Like, did it just feel like this stepping stone? Like, well, how did you think about it?
Dude, I honestly like, I would say that part of my life, and even looking at it now, is like, I'm just super grateful for it. Like when I look at it, like the people, the pastors that we connected with, the like literally everybody on staff at a church like that, they were like taking a risk on me. Like they're like, you know, who's this random guy? I literally just showed up one day and I just never left. Like I literally showed up like on a Friday, and I think I showed up like 6-7 days a week for like a year straight, just volunteering because I didn't have anywhere else to go. Yeah. And like I had my son, I would literally bring my son in a baby Bajorn while I would design. Like I'm like on a Wacom tablet and like literally like building out an app, and he's like there with a little playpen, and like I would take him to shoots just like this, and we'd have literally like a little crib there, and he would just like kick it with me. And it was kind of crazy because I didn't really, you know, it's not that I didn't have any other direction except for to be like all in. Yeah. And you know, again, you can have a dream, but it's also like important that the people that you surround yourself with like believe in it too, are willing to give you those opportunities, but also like are willing to guide you. Because there's definitely like ideas that I look back, I had these crazy ideas I wanted to do, but also like, Giann, that's dope, but why don't we go this way? And it was like, all right, like I'm willing to learn and to like take my creative giftings, but also like get it stewarded by somebody who's like 10 steps ahead of me, so I can learn from them.
So as you started taking steps towards building your own business, how early were you already dreaming about that? Like, was that from the beginning and now it was just finally time?
No, dude. I was just trying to make it. I was just trying to survive, bro. You know, I think the first like 2-3 years of, you know, raising a kid, it was challenging for multiple reasons, but it was also like, I woke up every day like excited, and I still like, I'm very blessed to say, but like, you know, some people like what they do. Like I love what I do, bro. Like it's like my favorite thing to talk about. Like if you ever catch me at a coffee shop or anywhere at church, we could talk about this stuff all day. Cause it's literally like, that's the gifting, the way that God wired me. Yeah. And so it's like, I lean into it pretty heavy, and I'm like super grateful for it. And so I've always been like excited to work and excited to use what God has gifted me with. Yeah. You know, and so, it's, I knew that I always would end up doing more, but in the season, like for sure that season, I was there for 6 years, and the first 2-3 years though, I was literally just trying to survive as a single dad. Like, I would be at Walmart at midnight trying to ask the people that work there, like, hey, which baby food do I give my kid? Like, I have no idea. Like, I was just trying to make it work. And so a lot of that, like if I had to title that part of my life, it was survival. And then now it's like, then I got married, I ended up growing our family, and it was like, oh wow, like God has like a plan for me that's probably bigger than dude, there's no way I could imagine like what I'm doing now, and creatively you just kept pushing it.
Yeah. I think in looking at that whole story from like a broader perspective, I think it's a good reminder that like when we talk about dreams, they're not always tangible, written down, very super clear.
Yeah.
There's on our part, it feels a bit like stumbling.
Oh, for
and then
sure.
on the Lord's part, He's laying out that for us to stumble into.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like those like those mazes, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna keep going. Okay, I hit a wall, or I keep going. Oh, I hit a wall, or like there's actually no path this way. Like I got to go this way. But I think like as long as you're willing to like continue to lean into it, and just like I was like kind of hold it like this, like bro, whatever you want me to do, like I will do. And like now we're at a place like in our family life and even in like in business or just in our calling is where we literally hold it like this. And it's like, okay, God, like if you tell me to pack up everything and just move across the country, like I'll do it. Like, or like, God, if you tell me to like stop this and start that, like I have no idea about this, but I'm game to do it because He said to do it. Like, and I know that like if I keep taking that action, kind of the leap of faith or like that motion, like God will like God will like allow me to fail sometimes for sure, but also I just know that I have like the blessing over my life because I'm hearing from Him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you begin to organize or think about like the kind of clash is probably not the right word, but how all the different dreams all kind of exist separate, but also have to just clash together. So it's where you live, maybe moving across the country, getting married or having a bigger family, doing the design thing. How do you like tell even younger people like to deal with all that? Because you can really boil it down to like, there's just this one dream for your life. And often we connect to profession, which isn't even, that's not your whole life.
Yeah. It's just part of your life. It's who you are. Yeah.
So how do you try to like talk to people about balancing all the different dreams?
Yeah. I think it's like, you gotta like, even like for like with what we do in marketing, right? And like in our advertising stuff, it's like, you have to test. Nobody's a fortune teller. Yeah. And like, you have to like experiment, you got to try it. And I think as long as you give yourself margin to like experiment a little bit, like God will tell you yes or no. He'll open doors, he'll close doors. He'll leave them cracked a little bit. He'll tell you like, oh, maybe there's opportunity, maybe there's not. But like, if you don't ever try it, you'll never know. And so a lot of times when I talk with people, particularly like young people, I'm like, dude, like I am here and like, not because I'm like great or anything. I'm really here just because like I leaned in and like, it really is like about you, like, okay, try it. Like, dude, like you can have a dream about something that feels so far out of reach. And like, you don't need to be an expert at it, but you might just spend 30 minutes to learn about it.
Yeah.
Like call some people up, like, like go to a meeting and just like ask, how do you guys even do this? Like, don't be afraid to like position yourself like in more of a learning aspect because nobody's arrived, bro. You got to just keep trying.
Each time we've talked, you seem to be try to be on the forefront of like the tools that are coming out, right?
Absolutely.
Like you seem very interested in that, where I'm a bit more like apprehensive to get going, and so I respect that you're going there. So from your perspective, like does any of the new possibilities or tools like give you any specific vision about like what the creative world can do in the kingdom?
Oh man, dude, that was a great question. I like geek out on that stuff. I'm a total nerd when it comes to that. But it's at the end of the day, AI or like just different platforms and tools is like really all they are is tools. Like now it's just more accessible to people. Back in the day, there was a lot of like red tape or things that you had to step through before you could kind of have a vision and take it to life. And now it's just a couple clicks. And it genuinely is like a couple clicks. And so it actually, in my opinion, it's great. Like I have a big team. I have a team of people that we lead. And a lot of times is like, they'll come to me with ideas and it's like, why don't you just make it then? You know? And they're like, how? And it's like, dude, if you like, here's some links, learn it. And like, you kind of have to be like a self-learner in that space, but also there's almost anything is possible now with these tools.
So for you, the vision is less vision about a specific like task that could be done, but more that any of the tasks could be done if someone had the idea. Because even for like our team, ideas are brought to us all the time.
Absolutely.
And the roadblock is the can it be done?
Yep.
And so you feel like the tools are getting so good that most things could be achievable.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. And like, can it be done like efficiently? And can it be done like, back in the day, if I asked you to literally 10 years ago, I say, hey, can you dev out a 75-page website for me? You're going to be like, well, great. Do you have $250,000 and you have 5 years of time to build this?
Yeah.
It's like, you could build that in a weekend.
Yeah.
Because the tools are there now.
Yeah.
And it's, and speaking from experience, it's like, yeah, it's mind blowing, but also then you get this like, oh my gosh, you could do anything you want. What do you want to do? And if anything, it's exciting because now you can actually say, man, like, what is this like dream I have for my life? I can actually like at least try it. Yeah. And it's, it's a lot more affordable, faster, and you could test an idea really fast, and it might hit and it might not, but it's always better than never trying and never knowing.
What's kind of your feedback to the naysayer believer who's a bit like the church or believers shouldn't be using all these tools?
Yeah.
Who knows why? They have all their reasons, but they can be kind of apprehensive about using it.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think there's there's beauty in like being a purist to a certain degree about certain things. And like my family and I are very much so like on that train. But there's also like God put us on the earth for a time like this. And it's like, if we're not taking advantage of these tools, other people are.
Yeah.
And I would much rather know what's possible than choose to like be naive and not actually take action towards it. Because again, the world is still going to move forward. And if I have the ability to be a part of it, understand it, but then help put the spin on what God has asked me to do into it, I would do that all day. Like that's totally it's an attitude again of learning, an attitude of like experimenting and trying.
Yeah.
And I think God will honor that. And I know he honors that. And I also know that like he wants us to, like, we should be the church. We're the innovator. Like he's given us literally gifts of like innovation, of design, of creativity. Like, why are we going to be second best to what the world is offering? We should be leading it instead of 100%. Trying to be like it.
I agree with that. So
that's a finger snap moment.
Yeah, that's
there
good.
You
go. So to kind of wrap up a lot of this story, like I've been believing through this whole Selah process that people are listening and they're in their time of prayer and fasting, and that has naturally opened up a window of like thought process, because hopefully you have more time to think because you're forsaking a meal, and so now it's you and the Lord, or you're not engaging in as much media. So as they're doing that, I would think there's a number of people out there who feel some type of creative gifting, but have like kind of tabled it maybe, or maybe they dabbled in it for a while and life hit them and then they had to table it. So what would be some encouragement you'd have to them as they're kind of wrestling with that feeling? What would you say to them?
I would say, now there's never a better time than now. I think like tools again are accessible, and if you spend some time in learning, like the biggest advice I can give to anybody who's like in that situation or season is like, be a learner, like constantly learn, always ask questions. If you don't know it, go find out. Don't just like, oh, I guess I hit a wall. It's like, you kind of have to like break through those, and you kind of, or maybe you don't break through it, maybe you go around it. Like there's a million ways to get to what you need to. And so if you want it bad enough, you will. I think the biggest thing that creative people lack is discipline, because it's like you can get disappointed and you can be like, we're kind of like emotional creatures sometimes, you're just like, I guess it didn't work out, or like, I guess the guy never called me back. Like, but it's like, if you really push it and you really feel like God just called you to it, like he'll find the way for you. But he can't steer a parked car. Like give him something to work with, like go for it, put yourself out there, try it. And have the confidence that God will show up. And again, it might not be like perfect path, but like you'll look back in, 15 years and be like, there's literally no way I could end up where I'm at right now if I did it my way. I had to like really kind of relinquish that and just like be open to him pushing me and guiding me and closing doors and opening them too.
And I think something our team talks about a lot is like our job, the creative department's job is to be a support team. We're supposed to support the vision. That's not always the case if you're a creative and you're making your own things for your own vision. Of course, that's different. But I think the unique role we can have as believers who are also creatives is there's like infinite opportunity to support right now.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't really matter if you're talking about someone who just wants to be like a traveling evangelist or a church of 100 people.
Yep.
Like every one of these leaders and pastors needs some type of technological support to like help connect to others.
Absolutely. And again, that's why it's like those tools are there for that reason.
Yeah.
And you should take advantage of it. And, there's like, I think as like creatives, like we have superpowers, like where we can experiment fast and we could try something. And especially when you're a creative at a church, is like everything is important and every ask is important. But you're also like, okay, let's actually identify what is the metric of success here. And it's like, are we like serving God well? Are we serving with excellence in our position? Are we providing value to a ministry so that they can do what God's equipped them to do?
Yeah.
And I think those are kind of the questions I like to ask. And also, what is like a pass or fail metric? And I think, God will bless it if you one willing to show up, and then two, like give it your all. And like, do you have to be Picasso? No. Like, do you have to be like, a crazy coder and developer? No. But are you at least willing to have a vision and just like put yourself out there? Like God could totally take that and do something like amazing with it.
Yeah, man. Well, is there any last thoughts you want to leave us with?
Dude.
Your brain might be bursting with them, but
bro, yeah, it's fun to talk about, man. And honestly, like the biggest thing I would say is like, just be like a lifelong learner. Like you have to like, don't ever settle with just like, okay, I know enough now. It's like, dude, like there's so many, there's 8 billion people on this earth. Like go learn from them, like try something new. Don't be afraid to look stupid. Like don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Ask questions, and you'll be grateful that you did, because eventually it'll become like second nature to you.
Yeah.
I look back like on the creative journey, bro, and like, I don't even know how to like turn on the program, let alone like turn on my laptop. It was just like, what? And now it's like, cool. Like we're in the zone, we're in the space. And now it's like not about me, but now we're able to like give back to the team and like challenge them with thinking that way too. And it's been really cool to see.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate Giann coming on with us. And I just believe in that as you've been listening to these, that you've been encouraged. And I would just encourage you to check out the next episode to push through over the next days of the Selah fast, and tune in next time.